So in today's video, we are going to be discussing Tyrann Mathieu signing with the New Orleans Saints. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's jump right into the video. So Tyrann Mathieu signed a 3-year, $33 million contract with the New Orleans Saints with $18 million guaranteed. And when I saw this number come out, the only thing that I could honestly think of was the contract that the Chiefs gave Justin Reid earlier this offseason, because Justin Reid got a 3-year, $31 million contract with $20 million guaranteed. And this is basically the same contract that the Chiefs gave Justin Reid. It's literally comparable. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about this quote that Tyrann Mathieu had earlier in the offseason. The quote said, "To be honest, if they would have offered me Justin Reid's deal, obviously I would have tried to negotiate. But if that's where they drew their line in the sand, I probably would have taken it." So basically, Tyrann Mathieu was admitting that he was looking for the number in the same range that Justin Reid got. Obviously, as he mentioned, he would have negotiated, and he got a $2 million more on his contract for the number as a whole than Justin Reid got. But at the end of the day, it's the exact same contract, which this contract that he signed with the Saints really told me two things. Obviously, as we mentioned, one, that him and Justin Reid basically got the same contract, and two, the Kansas City Chiefs were willing and ready to kind of move off of Tyrann Mathieu. I kind of hate to put it that way, but that's basically what this contract was telling me, is that the Chiefs and Tyrann Mathieu, they were basically done, and the Chiefs were ready to move on from Tyrann Mathieu. Kind of stinks to put it that way, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what this whole situation means. With the number that Mathieu got, the number that Reid got, and basically that quote right there, what Tyrann Mathieu gave, basically meant that the relationship between the Chiefs and Tyrann Mathieu was basically over at that point. It sucks, but that's just what it is. But Tyrann Mathieu, he now gets to go home to Louisiana, where he played college football for LSU, and now he gets to play for his hometown New Orleans Saints. But a fun fact, now he gets to go back and play with Daniel Sorensen, so he can throw his hands up in the air at Daniel Sorensen some more, because that'll be funny and never get old to watch. So he now has to deal with Daniel Sorensen again. He can't get rid of him. He will haunt him forever, and I kind of feel bad for him when it comes to that. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of going to miss Tyrann Mathieu in Kansas City. He kind of meant a lot to this team. He did a lot for Kansas City. He did a lot for the Chiefs. It wasn't always the prettiest time, especially if we're talking the social media aspect. You know, him and fans always got into it on social media, but at the end of the day, Tyrann Mathieu, he was a fighter, he's a competitor, and what he did for the Chiefs, you can't really chalk it down to numbers. I mean, I could try to explain some numbers, but at the end of the day, what Tyrann Mathieu meant to the Chiefs was a lot more than numbers. He was a huge impact for the Chiefs. Just one number, he had 13 interceptions in his time in Kansas City. But in 2018, the Kansas City Chiefs had a sad excuse of a defense. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen put on a football field, honestly, in my life. That 2018 Chiefs defense was an absolute mess. The offense had to carry that team. Patrick Mahomes, literally his first year starting, had to go out, throw 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. Honestly, that just showed how great Mahomes was, but at the same time, he had to carry that garbage defense on his back. And because of Mahomes, the Chiefs were literally almost to the Super Bowl. If it wasn't for the defense at the end of the 2018 season being offsides, Mahomes in his first year would have literally carried the Chiefs and that horrible defense all the way to the Super Bowl that year. So that 2018 defense was a disaster. But bringing in Tyrann Mathieu in 2019 was probably one of the greatest free agent signings the Chiefs have literally ever made in the history of the franchise. Bringing in Tyrann Mathieu changed that culture, changed that defense, and changed the Chiefs into having a legitimate defense. Was it one of the top defenses in the NFL? No. It was the 17th ranked defense in 2019. But at the same time, that defense was a night and day difference than 2018, and that defense did more than enough to take some stress off the Chiefs offense and taking some stress off of Mahomes. And you can always chop that up to when they brought in Tyrann Mathieu, because in 2018 the Chiefs defense gave up 405 yards per game, 273 yards passing, and 132 rushing yards per game. But in the 2019 season, when Tyrann Mathieu came, it took a little bit before the Chiefs defense kind of got rolling that year, but once the things got rolling, that defense honestly could not be stopped, or the defense was just stopping everybody in its tracks. That defense was lights out in the second half of that season. After giving up 35 points to the Tennessee Titans in Week 10 of 2019, that defense started locking down every single opponent they played the rest of the season. Again, they had the 17th ranked defense in 2019, but again, that defense was a little bit better than 17th, especially down the stretch. Because like I said, after they lost to the Titans in Week 10 of 2019, the rest of the season, the final 6 games of that season, they only gave up 11.5 points per game. So that defense went from kind of iffy to start the season, obviously better than it was in 2018, to literally the best defense in football down the stretch, leading into the Super Bowl and helping the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, because I'm pretty sure that was the playoff run where they held Derrick Henry to like 9 rushing yards in the second half and just completely shut him down. So the Chiefs defense was mightily improved by Tyrann Mathieu. I can't stress this enough. Tyrann Mathieu is more than numbers to the Chiefs. What he brought to that defense was something I don't think is ever going to be replaced. The energy that he brought, the instinctive nature of his play on the field literally helped change the culture of that defense and helped them win the Super Bowl in 2019. So Tyrann Mathieu's going to be missed in Kansas City. He's going to be forever loved and forever grateful for everything he's ever done in Kansas City, helping that team becoming one of the best teams in the NFL, and he's going to be remembered and always loved for helping the Chiefs win the Super Bowl back in 2019. Because his time in Kansas City, he was a 2-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler, and a Super Bowl champion. So what he did in Kansas City was absolutely remarkable. And if we're still talking about the position he plays, Tyrann Mathieu was one of the best safeties in the NFL during his time in Kansas City, and he's still probably one of the best safeties. Even he's gone, he's not in Kansas City anymore, but I still think he's probably one of the best safeties in all of football. And what he brought to the football field, you're never going to find that again. You're not going to replace that. That is going to be nearly impossible to replace. But now he gets to play for his hometown New Orleans Saints, and I still think he's going to make a huge impact for the Saints defense, because the Saints defense is always great. Dennis Allen's always going to put the Saints defense out there every single week, and it's going to lock down opponents no matter who they're playing. Look what they do to Tom Brady in the regular season. They're going to lock down players. They're going to lock down opponents. And Tyrann Mathieu is just going to be another cornerstone of that defense that's going to help them be an absolute monster against every opponent that they play every single week. I know the Saints, they lost Marcus Williams to the Ravens, and then they lost Malcolm Jenkins, who retired, but they still have Marshawn Lattimore on that defense. The Saints still have great players on that defense, and I still think the Saints will be just as good as they were, in past years defensively. You add in a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, who's going to help have guys in the right position, help guys make plays. Tyrann Mathieu himself is just always going to be around the football. Again, what Tyrann Mathieu brings to the football field will never be matched, and the Saints are getting obviously one of the best players in the NFL, one of the best at his position at safety, and it stinks that Tyrann Mathieu is officially gone from the Chiefs. He signed with the Saints as a free agent, but his time in Kansas City will never be forgotten. What he did for the Chiefs was absolutely amazing. The Saints obviously are getting their hometown man back, and it's awesome to see that he finally gets to play for his hometown team. Do I wish he was still a Chief? Part of me, yeah, but at the end of the day, when you realize the NFL is a business, the Chiefs, they wanted to get younger, they wanted to add guys like Justin Reid to the team, and it was just time for Tyrann Mathieu and the Chiefs to move on, and it was time for Tyrann Mathieu to start the next chapter of his NFL career. But those are my thoughts on Tyrann Mathieu signing with the New Orleans Saints. Give me your thoughts down below of what you think of Tyrann Mathieu signing with the Saints, and I will see you in the next one.